We just had a rough morning. I'm on the side of the road just trying to, you know. I got to school and my son, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just got really upset and did not want to go inside. And I said, son, we really need to go inside. It's Tuesday. You normally go to camp. And he just was so upset. But that's not where it started. Where it started was we overslept. And we haven't overslept in months, but we overslept. When we woke up, I realized what time it was, and I said, we gotta get going, you gotta get to school. And he wanted to do his normal morning routine, which I understand that. And so we took a little time, we rushed it, but we got a lot of the morning routine done, got in the car, headed there. Well, on the way there, he asked me a simple question. He said, why do we have thumbs, and why are our thumbs so helpful? And he always asks great questions, so this is nothing out of the ordinary. But the difference is, when I was explaining it this morning, he got really frustrated because I think he didn't understand the concept of what I was trying to explain to him. And so I got frustrated, he got frustrated, and it was just very frustrating. And then he yelled, stop! And something triggered me, and so I turned around, just put on the music, and just drove in silence for a minute or two. And that's unusual for me. And so I think that alarmed him, and he didn't like that I had the music on. And so he put his hands over his head and just started shaking and was crying. And so I turned and looked at him, and I saw that, and I was like, oh. So I turned off the music. I took a few deep breaths. I put my hand on his knee, and I said, hey bud, I'm really sorry. I am so sorry that I just got frustrated with you. And he takes his hands off his head, and he kind of slowed down the crying. And he started taking some deep breaths, and I said, that was a frustrating conversation, wasn't it? And I think we were both misunderstanding each other. And he said, yeah. And then he grabbed my hands and he said, I'm so sorry too, Mom. And that was a very sweet moment, and I'm glad we got past that, because I could see that he was frustrated, and he's 5. His prefrontal cortex is not nearly as developed as mine is, and I was frustrated. So as soon as I realized that, I was like, okay, I'm the calm, I'm the parent, I need to be there for him. So I apologized, we held each other's hands, everything was great, started smiling again, perfect. Well, then when we get to school, he's so upset, he doesn't want to go inside, and I don't understand this, because every other day he's been fine. And so I was talking to him, I was like, is it water play day? Are you upset that it's water play day? And he said no, and he wouldn't explain to me what the problem was. So we sat in the parking lot for 30 minutes, and I tried to calm him down, I tried to figure it out, but then I was like, listen, I don't know how to help you if you're not going to tell me what the problem is. I said, let's go inside and see if we can get your teachers. He has 2 teachers. I said, maybe one of your teachers can help figure this out. And so finally I got him to come inside. Well, then he wanted me to carry him, and he was still crying, and I was like, oh man. And one side of me was like, I don't have time for this, but then the other half of me was like, how do I not have time for this? Because isn't my son's development and my son's emotional maturity the most important thing to me? And the answer is yes. So if I don't help him figure out how to work through these situations, if I don't teach him that communicating with me what his problem or his issue is, and I'm able to help him, that's a win-win for everybody. So it's my job as the parent to be calm and to communicate with him that we're on the same team. We can solve this together. And clearly I need to work on doing it more often when he's calm, not always just when he's upset, so that we can practice the skills. But it was just so refreshing, because when we got downstairs to his classroom, we were out there for a little bit, and some of his classmates saw him, which I think embarrassed him, and so then he got even a little more upset. And but then one of his teachers came out, Mr. Sam, and he helped ask little man some questions and got little man to answer him, and ultimately it came down to he didn't want to do nap time, which he never wants to do nap time, because he's not a napper anymore. He can't fall asleep. And so I get that. I would be frustrated, and they have to lay there for 2 hours, which is a very long time. What we discovered was that maybe little man could color during nap time, which he's gotten very into coloring the past few days. So that was ultimately a great solution. His frown immediately turned upside down. I mean, he was all smiles once we all came to that conclusion that was going to be a great solution for nap time. And he dried his eyes, looked at me and said, thanks so much, Mom. Gave me a kiss and a hug, and he was fine. And it's just amazing to me that I'm so fortunate, first, that I do have the time. I don't have a boss that's telling me you have to get home, you have to go do this, because as a content creator, my phone is out of storage, so I have to make this quick. But essentially what I'm getting at is, if I try to always tell myself, if I were his age and I were his friend and he were having this issue when I'm not around, or any issue when I'm not around, how would I want a friend of his to react? Or how would I want him to react as a friend if his friend were having his issue? And the answer to that is, I would want him to help try and calm his friend down. I would want him to try and see how he could help. I would want him to be the calm for his friend. So I always try to do that, because that's what I want to instill in him. And as a mom, that's my number one job, is to help him be safe and raise him as a good human. And if I would have just carried him into the school kicking and screaming, handed him off to the teacher and walked away, then I'm not really doing my job, in my opinion. And so I'm thankful that I have a job that I can do that, where I don't have a boss saying, why aren't you here? And I'm not afraid of getting fired, and I have the ability and the time to do this with him. But I wish more parents had that time and the energy and the effort, because it's our job to raise these humans, and they are that. They're humans. They're not just kids who have no emotions and no feelings, and we can just treat them however, because we can't. We have to treat them with respect, because that's how then they will grow up to treat other people. Ow, I have a weird pain. Okay, anyway, happy Tuesday and have a great day, and thank you if you got this far in my video.